Hello, good morning everybody. It's Chris Hales here. Welcome to the One People Radio Show. Good morning everybody, wherever you are. Good evening, good late night, good afternoon. Welcome in. It's going to be another interesting show today. There's things happening right, left and centre around the world, and some things that don't appear to be happening. And I just wanted to start the show today with a few comments from myself, because today's going to be a bit of a different kind of day. I want to really start by saying this, that since December 25th, we have had the most amazing journey. Journey in an education, if you like, geopolitics, the energetics, the spiritual aspects. Learning curve has gone off the scale for everybody, not just me, absolutely everybody. There's been a very large group of people who've had a real education in the realities of life in the last 6 months. Quite extraordinary. And it goes on. It doesn't stop. And one of the most important lessons that we've learned is the value of the energy that we're generating as the one people. The knowing that importance of that is absolutely the key to what we're all working on. We have to understand, and we have understood, that they used our energetics to imprison us, and that we will use the very same thing to free ourselves. Reasserting our free will is the source of that energy. If you look back on what's happened, the actions that people took, once we'd learned enough about what was actually going on, the courtesy notices, the actual foreclosure flyers, talking to people, spreading the word, websites, mail outs, email blasts, everything we've been doing, that is reasserting our free will. That is what's generating this massive energy around the one people. So how we win our freedom? How we win our freedom is by staying focused on generating that energy. We never stop, we never take our eye off the goal. And we know that the success doesn't rely on just the actions of one person, but it's the sum of the actions of all. Because that's where the energy comes from. That's the reassertion of our free will. So today's going to be a special show because things appear to be paused, and they are in somewhat of a pause. They don't have to be. Look around you, everything else is still going on. You've got to remember one thing about this movement. This movement came out of the One People's Public Trust. Now, if you just cross the word trust off the end of that, you're left with the one people. That's who we are and where we are and what we are. And there's no one particular person that should be attached to the outcome here. If you subtract me out of the picture, it should still go on. Even subtract Heather out of the picture, it should still go on. Because the one thing this whole process has done for us is that we've found each other. There's tens of thousands of people out there now working together for this one common goal, generating a massive amount of energy. That's what's going to shift us into a new world from where we are. No one's going to do it for us. There's no savior going on here. There's just us helping one another, us changing the planet. When we act as one, we'll change everything. I wish I could say that the entire planet is acting as one yet. It is clearly not. Just look around you. But this particular group of people, even if nothing else came, if nothing else came of anything that we've tried to do so far, would we walk away from one another having found one another? That's the aspect of the situation that I'd like to explore a little bit today, because today we're going to hold the space. We're going to have an update from yourselves, from you guys that are listening. Going to take lots of calls, and we're going to kick this around. So, beginning the show, I've got one special guest on at the moment, Brad Smits, who was on last week talking about the absolute data exchange, one of the tools that we're developing for pushing ourselves through this wall that we're working on. Brad, don't forget to unmute yourself. How are you today?
I'm well. Yourself, Chris?
Really good, actually.
Excellent.
Really good. Now, I'll just leave you on here. I'll do a couple of announcements first. I just wanted to welcome you onto the show. It's a rather lonely show today, I have to say. The absence of the complete absence. We had a semi-absence last week of the guys over in Morocco. Today they're actually on the move. They're actually on a bus as we speak, travelling back to Tangiers. So they just simply can't get here.
Okay.
So it's just, you and I for the moment, Brad, but we'll be joined by other people as the morning goes on, and we'll be taking calls. And I guess the first thing to chat about for a minute is the news that Bob Wright is improving quite markedly as a result of some energetic healing that they've all been doing. Because the whole process that's been going on in Morocco is a spiritual and energetic one, aside from the obvious discussions about Project 13 and the IUV, etc. Very much a spiritual journey for all of them, which is why I think they've become somewhat insular and non-communicative. And in fact, actually, the non-communication, Brad, was actually because they were in the desert. And I guess the Wi-Fi out there's not too good.
Yeah. Yeah, there's been a few people that may have missed their initial. They did notify everybody. They did say that they were going out there via the Skype rooms, and
they did. Yep.
And that was made pretty clear. I saw that, but we're all looking forward to what they've discovered out there in the desert.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Indeed. That'll be quite interesting. Quite interesting. People may not be aware that Bob Wright actually was a paraplegic. This has been going on some years. The cause of his spinal damage is somewhat of a mystery. Bob's got his theories about what and why it happened. And progressively has been healing himself to the point where he was actually out of a wheelchair and walking. And although he brought his wheelchair with him to Morocco, it got broken and he's pretty much going without it. And between that and the healing they've been doing to actually improve the situation, he can now walk about 20 metres unaided, which is, I think, is about as far as he's walked so far.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It is amazing. To going from being someone who couldn't walk to this situation is quite extraordinary. So we'll look forward to actually hearing that Bob is, fully moving at some point in the future, which is great. And that's something that they've been working on over there as a group. Clearly, they were very, very excited to get together. It was a soul family reunion in every way, shape, and form, and they obviously had a lot of stuff to share. So we'll leave them to it for the moment. But I will actually go over a conversation I had this morning with Caleb. Managed to get to Caleb. He really got knocked out. He was out of action for over a week. It's unsure exactly what happened to him, but he had great problems with his vision. He literally couldn't focus. And it's completely mystified him. He's not a person who has any health problems, so they basically just had to stop until he could recover enough to actually work. So here's the update on Project 13. The Windows Phone app, actually is being released today. Okay, it actually would already be released, except there was some issue with Microsoft's own system for releasing it, so he's waiting for it to come back online. The Windows app should be out in the next week. He's got a couple of issues to settle with it. Software releases are always a problem. There's always last-minute stuff going on. The app that he's putting out on the Windows will be very close in operation to what the phone app does. Both are in a state of development, and he fully expects to be doing bug fixes and sorting out any issues for some time, as with all software releases, and that'll be an ongoing thing. But the iPhone app. iPhone apps, I obviously don't get involved in iPhone apps. iPhone apps actually get released once a month, apparently, and they have to catch the next release, which won't be until the end of the month. At least the situation with this particular release, as far as I know. So the secure platform that we're waiting for is going to be partially there and coming online through the tools that most people use, which are their mobile phones and Windows, over this coming month. Now, this isn't the schedule that Heather set. and fate has intervened. Nothing we can actually do about that, and it's certainly not something we should fret over. We just have to roll with it. And that's part of holding the space, the energetic space that we're talking about. I had a chat with Brad last night. I think, Brad, you have a good understanding of holding the space.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's doing all the things that we can do, and not sort of relying on others to, I suppose, hold that space for you. So that's kind of where I come from. And a lot of the people that working on the Absolute Data Exchange, and I mean, we all feel pretty similar. I mean, nobody asked us to do it. It was just, it needed to be done, and so we did it. And it's these little things that people can do. Collectively, if everyone does a little thing, we could have some big changes happen quite rapidly. So, I just encourage everyone to put your think caps on and really, have a think about what and like what Heather said about, doing something in the moment. Is this, the divisiveness, or is this for the good of the collective? So.
Yeah, well, that's usually really easy to pick. If it feels right, then it's undoubtedly something that needs to be done. The sort of ebb and flow of situations like this does have a pattern to it. This is a very, very energetic situation. The quiet chat rooms, I think, bothered people because the guys in Morocco obviously were injecting energy continuously into the chat rooms, and they're a bit quiet now, and that's fine. As long as we realise there is a process going on here, and when they get back from Morocco, we'll just see where they want to go with it. In the meantime, of course, keeping our eyes on the ball is actually, a matter of recognising what the goal is and saying, okay, is it really worth it? Is the goal that we've got here what we really want? So, if the answer is anything but, oh my God, yes, we can't not do this, then we just need to do it. The being and doing that Heather talks about is reaching inside and just keeping going at times like this. So we push our way through it. That is the way the energetics actually work. We need to be really aware of the energetic side of this because it is an energetic battle, and the amount of energetic interference that this movement has received is a fantastic example of being over the target and copping the flak. Because the aviators will tell you don't get flak if you aren't over the target. So all the stuff that's coming from the sides of this issue, from the Drakes and the Kianans and all of those very, very inaccurate, obtuse, ridiculous statements they're making, they're simply to deflate energy. Okay, and there's various other things that are happening which are also possibly intended. Some of them are absolutely intended. Some of them possibly intended to take away our energy. Because in talking to people in the background, the one thing that the system doesn't like is the energy of the one people. It's absolutely devastating for them. They do not want it to flourish. They do not want it to increase. And what does that tell us? We need to make it flourish. We need to make it increase. So little pauses like this one, we really need to hold this space, keep doing what we're doing, knowing that we're actually doing something for everybody. So on that basis, we'll pass on to the next thing I wanted to talk about, which was Swissindo. Now, there's a lot of talk about Swissindo and who they are and what they are, and I've seen a lot of the documentation that's flowed through. You've seen the same stuff. There's probably a little bit I've seen that you guys haven't seen. Nothing startling there. All I can say about Swissindo is this. It's a situation that I don't want to pay a lot of energy into publicly because we don't know yet whether it's real. We have very, very little evidence that they actually, evidence that we can verify. I'd like to be able to call somebody, look up some history books, do some reading, find out who they are and what they're up to. That sort of information is not available to us. So it is, in fact, a very difficult thing to make a judgment call on. So you've probably noticed that we haven't talked about it much, nor should we, because if it isn't what it appears to be, which is a possibility of providing bridging funding to really shift the planet, if it isn't that, and we put all our hopes in it, all that's happening, and it isn't real, all that's happening is I'll whip the chair away and we'll fall flat. So not going there. There's a small team working on it. There's a couple of moves afoot at the moment. But those moves are essentially to draw those guys out, to actually find out whether they're real or not. And if they look real, and if we think there is, a positive chance, that might move forward. But until then, that's about all I want to say, Brad, because these sorts of things can end up being a great big energy trap.
Yeah, exactly. I've seen information that you look at it and you think, oh, I'm not sure what I'm looking at here. You know, it's sort of in half Indonesian, half English, and I'm not saying that there's anything bad in it, but it's difficult to understand, and it's we just have to wait and see.
Yeah, and one of the problems with doing that is you look at it, and unless you're really careful, you project your hopes into it, and it's just pure speculation unless you're really careful. And we're doing all the background work that we can to try and work out, whether the information is real or not, but little has come out of that process at this stage. Yet they keep this, somewhat difficult communication going, and publicly, visibly, have made no major moves. There's rumours about stuff happening, but we can't verify them. So we just have to say, okay, that's information. We'll stay neutral about it. We just say it might happen, it might not, and proceed when we get more information. In fact, remaining neutral is one of the key things that you guys probably notice I tend to do. If you deal with information and overlay an emotion on it, you fall into the speculation, and really unjustified hope is something that's a terribly energy-removing circumstance, and we don't want to go there. We want to hold this energy. We really want to actually make sure that we keep this thing pushing along. Because my overall attitude to things, like what we're going through, is if something doesn't work, it's next. Let's find something that does work, because it doesn't make the problem disappear. The only thing that will resolve all of the situations that are going on around this planet, which we're all very well aware of, is essentially some form of disclosure, some form of public incident, and it could be something minor that will actually trigger all of the stuff coming out from the background. And if you ever speculated, Brad, about what you think that might be, the event that will force disclosure?
Sorry, ask me that again, Chris.
Well, one of the things I do is, a lot of conversations with people as to how will all this start. For instance, what we're working on as the One People is to let everybody possible know that the entire planet's run by corporations.
Oh, exactly,
and they've all been foreclosed, and that the not only are the governments corporations, but the ownership of the corporations goes back to an incredibly small group of people. It's not like they're evenly distributed around the planet. There's a giant control system going on here which is invisible to 99% of the people on the planet. That's what we're trying to reveal. So it might be, some whistleblower coming forward. What will be the act of disclosure? I know it's not going to be a bunch of ships coming down, even though that might happen later at some stage, because obviously, there are obviously folks out there waiting to have us sort out our problems so they can come here. So it ends up going back to the geopolitical. So what's your favourite theory about what would force disclosure?
Well, I don't know if I have one favourite theory, but it's interesting to see the things coming to the surface. Take for example yesterday this whole Edward Snowden affair over in America with the NSA whistleblower. Mm-hmm. I think that the more people that come forward like that from the establishment, that obviously demonstrating that they have consciences towards the rest of humanity. I mean, we all hear these rumours of what the government's conspiring to do against us. And I think the more of these people that come forward in this fashion, it's going to help people not be scared to even believe that any of this could be true, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, well, the problem is that most people believe what they see on the media. So, of course, as soon as a whistleblower pops up, they are forced into cognitive dissonance. They have to decide at that point what they're going to believe and what they're not going to believe.
That's it, and there's a big fear thing attached as well in their social circle. They might find this information out. I heard somewhere the other day that it takes people on average about 7 times to be I suppose, for want of a better word, woken up.
To have their belief sets shifted.
That's right.
Yep.
And there's a big fear piece just in your own little social circle that for fear of being ostracised from your group, that people will think you're some left-wing conspiracy theorist. But
yep. I've been handed a tin hat many a time, a foil hat. Yeah, look, it's far easier than it used to be to talk to people about this sort of thing. And to suggest to people that, for instance, the Australian government is an illegal corporation, or the Canadian government, or the American government, and most of the governments of Europe, they're all corporations that have been overlaid on top of what were sovereign entities. Just that concept alone is absolutely flooring for most people.
It's world breaking. I mean, it challenges everything that you've been conditioned, grown up with in day-to-day experience of life in this system.
Yeah.
And part of the trouble is people actually grasping the concept that there could actually be another way.
Well, that there could be that this entire scenario that's playing out that they just can't see because of the way that they've placed all their faith in the mainstream media, which is really the biggest problem. Why the move that David Icke has just made to start up his effectively his own internet TV station is going to be quite.
It's fantastic.
Quite incredible. In fact, the whole affair with Bob's ticket, getting Bob a ticket to Morocco. Lisa got funded as well, and this is something that is a direct evidence of the way the energy of the one people can manifest into reality, just in the snap of the fingers. Now, when David crowdsourced the funding for the TV station, he was oversubscribed by 50% in a couple of days.
I read last night they'd reached about £117,000 of their 100,000 goal. So
exactly,
it's happening. So this I suppose it's an alternative to YouTube.
It's
for the people.
Well, even an alternative to things like Russia Today. And these are the little things that we can all do.
They are. Think back to what you were talking about before, and just talking to each other. And at the moment, there's people all over the world listening to this, and quite a lot of them are probably feeling alone at the moment.
Sorry, just saw a thing a comment in the chat room, which says something like, "I'm saying everything in my head in a bad Aussie accent." It's okay. I do a really crappy American accent, so feel free.
I'm not even looking at the chat room here. I can't even see it. So sorry if anyone's asking me questions. I can't. I'm flying blind.
Yeah, it goes. No, that's okay. I mean, it's pretty hard to watch the chat room because it actually goes past really quickly. So, but yeah, look, feel free to do bad Aussie accents, folks. We'll try and keep our speeches legible, as audible, and understandable as possible. We're going to hear a few other accents a little later in the show, so there'll be a spread.
Mix it up a bit.
Yep, mix it up a bit. But back to David Icke, that kind of thing has a big impact on the collective, that sort of information. And as you say, talking to one another, communicating, is the best thing we can do. Because one of the interesting things that when you really go researching on what's going on, for instance, with the American government has been foreclosed upon something like 20 times, some ridiculous number, by various people carrying out legitimate legal moves to try and bring this whole thing to a resolution. And essentially, they just get ignored. The legal system actually ignores them because guess who? The legal system's another corporation. Surprise. And the difference between what's happening now and what's happening for those other 19 times is the internet and the fact that we've got means of communicating directly with one another en masse. Okay, never happened before. And this is where the energy of the one people has actually really come to fruition. It's because of the communications that we carry out in Skype rooms, off the websites. I get emails every day from people who are doing regular email outs, keeping people up to date, keeping the energy flowing. That's what we've all got to work on very hard. Keep that energy going. So here we are. Now, what I wanted to do was to with you, Brad, because one of the reasons I brought Brad on today, folks, is Brad keeps abreast of the geopolitics to a greater degree than I do at the moment. And I just wanted to rely on things he's been looking at, just to draw our attention to the fact that things are really building up out there. Now you've been looking around, Brad. There's riots going on in countries, all sorts of confrontations going on. When you dip your finger into the pond that is the collective out there, what's the temperature?
Well, it's warming up. It's definitely warming up in a good way, and I think if you look at for example, what's going on in Turkey and how that started out, I think as a protest over a park that was going to be turned into a building or a car park of some kind, and now it's turned into this full-blown political movement. We've got a complete global blackout on it, and you've got there was a big outbreak yesterday, I think, over in Afghanistan, actually. I haven't actually looked too much into that one, but some of my sources tell me that that's fired up over there. I think the embassy is under siege again. We've got all sorts of things that some would say are perhaps distractions from what people are trying to find out. And geopolitically, I think this stuff's just going to keep continuing on. There's the agenda on the other side, and lots of people are talking about Agenda 21, and the nefarious plans for the New World Order. But I think through everything that we've seen with the growth of the internet, you mentioned it before as well, the internet being the way that people connect, and I think the people are the souls behind the people are a lot smarter than perhaps what the other side might have given credit for. And I've said time and time again, how can you stop people from waking up?
Well, you can't, and that's the problem that the people who are controlling the situation really have. It's like whack-a-mole.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, they got lots of hammers out there whacking, but they can't get all of us. And as fast as someone wakes up, another wakes up, another wakes, and it's bubbling right beneath the surface now. To give you an example, I spoke to Captain Derrill this morning to find out how he's moving. Sends his regards to everybody. He wants to correct one thing. There was an article published about, not an article, or an email going around published, an email being sent around, which was just an opinion piece, just someone putting out their opinion on what's going on with the One People's Public Trust, or the work of the One People's Public Trust, because the trust itself is no longer functional, of course. I need to make sure people don't forget that, which claimed that Derrill was actually an ex-Mountie, and he's not. He's actually ex-Canadian military. So I will correct that. That was the only factual issue with the piece. But he just wanted to make sure that was out there, because he doesn't...
He was in the Air Force, wasn't he?
Yeah. No, actually, he started off in the Army and transferred to the Air Force fairly early in the piece. He was about 28 years in the military in Canada, so he's really served his people and continues to. So he's working on his own material, which is he's got a court case coming up for the foreclosure, and as you may recall, he deliberately put his property in foreclosure to give himself an opportunity to prove that the Canadian system was corrupt, and he did. And he's still putting that back in their faces every time he interacts with them. He's got a hearing coming up on the 13th over his kidnapping and imprisonment. And so he's preparing his case there. He's doing some. He is actually working on various other things behind the scenes. Amazing guy. Always got a very energetic attitude. Brilliant example of someone who's really putting it out there for everybody. So he said thanks for all the support. He really appreciates it. And I'll do another update from him after that court case. I've done a couple of interviews with him. I'll do one more. But here's this interesting bit of information. He's obviously still around in the system, and one of his contacts who's in Ottawa and is close enough to the sort of political systems who observe says something's going on with the Canadian government. There's an awful lot of late night meetings going on, and no legislation being talked about, discussed, or put up. So they're not doing any lawmaking. They're doing a lot of the word suggested to Daryl was panicking behind the scenes. So something is going on at a fairly high level. Now, speculation. Is it the fact that they've been foreclosed and they think that the door might be shutting on? If this Swissindo stuff is real, and folks, we don't know it isn't, that's a possibility. Is there something else going on geopolitically, like the revaluation of the dinar that's bubbling to the surface, or another of these white hat groups working on the political system in the background, such as put forward by the Pooth, who unfortunately passed away, about a week and a half ago? We don't know, but what we do know is there are people observing this group of politicians in Ottawa who sound like, they're having a bit of a fit at this stage. So, stay neutral, observe, look at the stuffs around, look at the political unrest around the planet, note that it's going up, observe, and at local level. What we can see at local level, because Brad, being an Australian like myself, would observe that very, very little of anything that we're talking about here has reached the mainstream media, with the exception of Edward Snowden. Edward Snowden has actually, the interview with him has actually reached the mainstream media because he directly addressed, I think, some British newspapers and is passing information on them. So, there is stuff going on in the background. It's obviously related to everything that every group on the planet's doing, because one of the things that we have to realise that in the non-English speaking world, this is all going on as well. Different groups, different issues, but it's the same thing. It's the one people pushing back against the system. We don't have much contact directly with them. I might bring Santos Bonacci on the show at some point in the next few weeks, and we can actually have a talk about what's going on in those countries, because he does some shows in Latin America and a certain amount of work with the Italians. So he's actually viewing a different group of people to what we're actually grouping in. So at this point in time, again, even locally, you spoke of a bit of information from a politician in Australia, Brad, whose name we won't necessarily mention here because I know she wants to stay somewhat private. But she's a state politician, and she's interacting with us to a degree, and observing that there's an awful lot of really crazy legislation being talked about in her particular area at the moment. Did you have anything to add to that, Brad?
Yeah, well, we're staring down the barrel of yet another referendum for a local council, state government. Sorry, I'm just trying to find this particular article that was written this morning. But basically the gist of it is, and this. I'll read it out. If you like. Well, folks, in September of this year, we will have an opportunity to give the major parties a nudge, a poke, if you like. It's time that they truly hear our discontent and fight for what is important to us, we the people, and correct the wrongs of their past decisions and legislative directives. Now is the time for each and every one of us to write to all of them and let them know that we know about their long-term agenda and where we fit in their plans. It is time to rain down an email campaign on them like never before and make sure the media is included in this. At the coming election, we will have more choice than before, and we should take advantage of that, ensuring that neither of the majors end up with all that power. Put to the majors last and send them the message, do your job that we pay you to do, or get out. Well, I would suggest that, that's a pretty strong message there. I mean, obviously there's the political message, because this particular politician has to talk that way, but this particular politician has spoken about the one people before and the filings, and bringing it back to the filings again, we still haven't seen anyone rebut the filings.
No, we have not.
And that's what this is all about. I mean, at the core of all of this, it all fits back to these filings. And,
it does. It does.
And that's what the foreclosure flyers are about, and that's what this particular politician came out and was quite vocal about in the past. And I think the comment was at the time, the only thing that's stopping any of this from eventuating is people doing something about it.
Exactly.
And talking to each other. So, we'd like to see people talking to each other more about it, and the Absolute Data Exchange, we've got the, all the email addresses, which are building rapidly. We've got about 8,000 contacts in there now, people to be able to send out, again, just a foreclosure flyer, so it's not an accusation, it's just for your information. Are you aware? This is what happened. Send out as many of those as you can. Join in on events. So the events are now there, so people come along and create an event on the page, and encourage other people to join in on that. But you and I were talking last night about bringing it down another level locally. Perhaps mixing a bit of exercise, printing off a few flyers, and telling the people about it.
Indeed.
Telling your neighbours.
Now, firstly, about the politician we've just been discussing, I've actually met this person, and one of the questions I asked her was, if we had a new form of governance, like a CVAC, and we can talk a bit about the CVACs, later in the show and that general concept, because it's a conversation that I want to revive. What I said to her was, if you had a choice, or if you could make a guess, really, as to how much the current structure in your particular area of government, say the people, how many of those people would you actually bring into a new structure? And I was expecting her to say maybe 20%, maybe 15%, and her answer was maybe 2-3%. She feels that the system is so corrupt that the people are so much bound up in self-interest. It's a hierarchy with self-interest, right? Which is exactly the way the slavery system works. All the people in the hierarchy exercise self-interest, and it all comes down as pressure on the people who actually do in our communities and create the energy to actually make everything work, which is us. So it all comes back down to us. And, we allow that. So we actually have to disallow that to reclaim, reassert our free will. It's the way it actually has to work. But you're dead right. It actually, there's a whole bunch of things that we can actually do that we've really yet to broach. There's, as Brad just pointed out, the foreclosure flyer is something that you can use as a mailbox drop to start a conversation going with your neighbours. Because there's really one thing going on here. The way that the current situation is working from the top down. I mean, Heather has attempted, is doing an action which is literally, letting the head of the snake and, forcing change down through the system. Now, we've actually been forcing change up through the system with the foreclosure flyer and the courtesy notices. And, I'd like to try and add as many other tools as possible. There are other things that we can do that rely more on actions in interactions with the current system. And if anyone is familiar with the term, acting in the private or acting out of equity, if you've researched that at all, you'll know what I mean. And we may talk about this in future shows some more, because we want to round up all the tools that we probably can. But if we can keep the pressure on from the bottom up, well, the pressure's coming from the top down, we get that pincer movement. And, that's a classic military strategy, the pincer movement. So we should, in fact, take advantage of that. And here's the thing. Working upwards from base community level is actually, I don't know, I couldn't tell you whether it's any easier or harder than working from the top down, but it's absolutely the one that will generate the most energy from the one people, because it involves people doing things with people. Okay, that's where this huge push forward will gain momentum, when people are doing it with other people, to make sure that the actual system does shift. Because, I don't know if you ever think about this, Brad, but, we are the system. We actually make it work. You know, if there's a problem, then we're promulgating it by continuing to interact with the system. You know, and we are forced to do this simply to survive because the system is so all-pervasive. We remove our energy from the system, and the system starts to shift and morph. We create another system, and if it can energetically exceed the first will just disappear. And indeed, that's what the IUV exchange is all about, ultimately, to remove our value from the other system in the form of the energy that we pour back into it in terms of tax, and the energy that we pour into it simply to let it live day to day. So, having said that, the absolute data exchange, how many email addresses have you now got on there?
Last update I received was apparently 8,000 contacts in the days now.
How many countries?
I think it was around about, hang on, let's go and have a look. It's about 15 or 16 countries that have got solid chunks of data in there. And again, putting the call out, anyone who's looking for something to do that's got a computer and can do a bit of research, familiar with the spreadsheet, please, send the information in.
Yep, lodge it in the system, because the event-driven mode that the guys running the website, and do you want to put out a thank you for the people who are working on the website too while you're there, Brad? Because apart from yourself, there's a number of people who have been really, really pushing this along.
Yeah, look, I won't mention any names, but all the guys in there know that there's a lot of appreciation for what, from me to them, for what I can see them doing, and this is around the clock. I mean, we've got the whole world in there around the clock. None of these guys are getting paid. They're doing it because, it's like all of us. It resonates with us. This is the right thing. We're trying to move toward the right thing here. So thanks, guys. Couldn't have done any of this without any of them.
Everything is, the amazing thing about this whole movement, because this movement is assuming a life of its own beyond the original work of the One People's Public Trust, and it will continue to do so. We're working on the guys working on the UCC liens have started to put some test work through the system to see how it works. So, I don't want to preempt when they're happy to release it, but that tool will be coming. We can start to use a foreclosure file at a very local level. We've got the email outs that are available through the Absolute Data Exchange. And, if you've got your own local group of people that you're pounding away at, add them to that exchange. It's all useful data. Every little bit of energy we plug into the system is going to have an effect on the system. Now I've forgotten what I was going to... Oh, yes, I was actually going to also thank the guys on the IUV Exchange website, BZ Rieger and her crew.
Most definitely.
They are doing a stunning job, and I actually got lobbed off the internet just before the show, just in a pure. I was going to check with BZ and see how she was doing. If she's listening, if she just wants to drop me a note in Skype just to give us an update on how her accommodation issue is resolving itself, and hopefully it is, so that we can actually put a call out for more stuff, for more assistance for her, for maybe some transport, an actual place she can go to, any possible way you can give BZ a hand, because she's putting in 40 to 60 hours a week. Oh, and the point I wanted to go on to is that this entire process has gone on with zero budget. Okay. Now, what does that tell you? Because the amount of value that's gone into the websites, there's so many Facebook pages, so many other websites that are gathering bits and pieces. They're all operating on zero budget, folks, from a traditional sense. Or are they? Is that our value that's actually showing itself in real stuff?
Yeah.
And that's a point to take note of. I've got a little message from BZ. Okay, I'll let her. She's typing. I'll let her finish that before I actually read it out. Now, what we're going to do now, and actually for most of the show, Brad, we're going to actually talk to the folks out there. And what I'm really asking for, we'll answer any questions that you've got, but what we're really looking for, I guess, is two things. Things that you can see that maybe we haven't mentioned, that point to the shifting in, that power shift away from the system back to us. Politicians being taken down, issues being aired that were never aired before in public. Anything that's out there that represents a shift in the system, because we all tend to work and observe, a certain range of stuff on the internet. We certainly don't observe everything. So we've got about 6 calls on the board already. So we'll work our way through those. I'm just keeping an eye to see if Scott Bartle is coming online. I had a couple of questions for him. He may actually be. He said he would be busy this morning. If I can catch him, we'll bring him on and see how he's going with his court case work with Uwe over here, because they've got quite a pivotal foreclosure action going on. Okay, well, BZ is saying this: the love that has poured in from everyone has been wonderful. I found a room I can live in, a wonderful lightworkers apartment a few towns over from me. I'll be moving on Monday, June 17th. I could use help moving the little things I have. We know Julian's already organised. He's already self-organised. He's going to be in it to move, and she's got a moving date of next Monday morning. So if anyone's in Seattle, if you just want to type the name of the suburbs you've got to move from and to, that would be great. Love this stuff. Instant feedback. Just so if there's anyone in Seattle that can give her a hand on Monday morning to move her stuff. Doesn't sound like she has a huge lot. So she's in Edmonds, Washington, moving to Redmond, Washington. Not sure of the distance there, but
someone out there's got to have a truck.
A truck, a trailer, cars,
a trailer, U-Haul.
Even if you just put on the working shoes and go and shift a bit of furniture. Oh, what's she got? Not much. Dresser and computer, 2 chairs, two chairs and a kitty and clothes. Yeah, yep. Sounds like she's not moving a lot of furniture, so it should be pretty easy. But she does have a leg injury she's recovering from, and she really does need a bit of help there. So BZ, I think you'll be fine. You'll be great. She's still typing away. Okay, let's take a call. First in the queue. Okay, area code 347. Hi, good morning. Your mic is live. Who are we speaking to today? Hello. Area code 347. Okay, we'll pop you back on hold. Now we have a second area code 347 here. Actually, we have the same number twice. Hello. Can you hear us? No, we'll pop that one call. This one's a Skype call. Okay, your mic is live. Good morning, how are you? Hello? Interesting. Okay. Let me try this one again. Okay, area code 406.
Hello from Montana.
What's going on, Chris?
I don't know. We've got Montana on the line. Okay, who are we speaking to?
Can you hear me? Oh, this is Whitney in Montana.
We can hear you.
Yay!
How are you?
I'm fantastic.
Yay.
G'day, Whitney.
We must be on the same wavelength because I was... Go ahead.
No, I was just going to jump in, but you go first.
I was just thinking today about all the areas that I could be talking to people. I had a lovely 20-minute discussion with my Jehovah's Witness crew that came by my house this morning, and they left with my card to speak to their group, and let me talk to them. They're very excited about hearing everything in Turkey and world peace, and it turns out they're looking, as I look through their pamphlets, they're pointing out the same things with our food and the drugs and, as far as all the pharmaceuticals and things like that. So that was pretty fascinating to see that it's true that everybody's working towards the same goal. We all want peace.
Look, one of the things, Whitney, that I really, really look forward to is mainstream media, big news conference, celebration of world peace. There's going to be a moment sometime in the next, the period of months, a year, where I really, really want that to happen.
Yeah, I don't feel like it's going to take that long.
There, Whitney?
But again, that's just my. Can you hear me still? I'm still here.
Yes, true. Yep, good.
Okay.
Yeah, it literally is necessary. If you look around the world, it's working hard at it, and it's not something that should continue. It should never have gone there. And it's the moment for me, actually.
Mm-hmm. Well, a couple ideas I came up with that people in their own areas. Am I breaking up? Or?
No, actually, the problem with it is quite a big delay between we speaking and the other actually hearing. So just continue on. It's fine.
Okay. So I looked in our paper, and I think probably locally a lot of people have groups that are meeting on sustainable agriculture, your Monsanto group with the march that came together in a lot of cities. My town has a lot of that going on, but I'm sure that almost every town does, and those are groups where you can easily go to an open meeting, and normally they're in the free ads in the paper or listed on an event schedule online or something like that. But that's a place that people can go with foreclosure fires and talk about, introduce the information to them. When I passed out flyers at our Monsanto march, most of the reactions I got were very heartfelt thank yous for the information. So it's not they're not difficult groups to join.
Yeah. So again, the time delay. I didn't mean to interrupt you. When you suggest to people that the governments that they're dealing with are actually corporations, and that essentially they're operating illegally, what's the reaction you get?
I get mostly the people already know.
Really?
Yeah, I don't have a lot of surprised looks on my on the faces. I have talked to some people that didn't know it, but there's some very interesting things going on that are impacting a whole bunch of people. One, the children are amazingly aware, and so every family is dealing with children that are more aware and more aware. The military guys are not being fed in our military. I've confirmed that through 3 different conversations that I've had with people themselves that said, well, one said, yeah, my buddy sent me a picture of a sign from the Marine Corps that said, we're no longer serving breakfast due to the sequestration. The guys that are going to boot camp are getting underfed, and you would think in boot camp, since they're exerting all that energy, they would be fed really well, but they're not being given enough food, this is all signs that there's just not enough money going in the system, or they're on purpose doing that to them, because they're busy buying a lot of ammo.
That is actually quite extraordinary, Whitney. I hadn't actually heard that particular thing before. That they're actually cutting back on food for the military.
Yeah, it's actually kind of horrific. I saw a guy that he didn't make it all the way through boot camp. I talked to him personally a couple of weeks ago, and he had lost tons of weight. He looked malnourished when he came out. And you would think that the young recruits would be looking they would be fed well enough that with all the exercise, they'd come out of boot camp, looking great. And the promises, the VA, I'm also talking to a lot of people that say the VA is not keeping their promises as far as taking care of our troops when they come back. They're making it very difficult to actually claim those $30,000, school bonuses or medical care for things that happened when they're on the job. They're making it very difficult for them to get, their appendages fixed, if they have a torn ligament or anything. And the people I'm talking to are saying it takes a lot of push to get the government to actually, fix what happened with them.
Wow, that of all things to cut back on both of those is ridiculous, because in the end, the difficulties that we have are that we don't have the enforcement they do. Their ultimate enforcement is the military. And if the military have been treated badly, then we need to reach out to the military and let them know what's actually going on. They are in there, mostly they're in there because they want to serve the people. And they need to know that if they're actually in those organisations, they're not serving people, they're serving the corporations. It's not even a government involved here. They're just serving corporations. That's a pretty big pill to swallow for a lot of these guys. And it's one of the things that Captain Derrill is very aware of, that when the military realise what's going on and ultimately act, that's where the point that will be quite pivotal in this whole shift that we're going to go through.
I was really heartened that the information on Obama's birth certificate was presented to the National Sheriff's Association. That happened last week. And so there's sheriffs going back to their towns now knowing this information. I see a lot of things shifting and happening right now. It's kind of exciting.
It is very exciting. And an interesting thing is, the Obama birth certificate, that's been bubbling away since about halfway through his first term. And, fantastic that it's coming out now to really right down to local level, where, local officialdom being finally educated as to what's really going on. And they have to look at it and say, what the hell is going on? And when they realise that Obama, there's actually several oaths that a president should take. One of them is to the original Constitution, and there's supposed to be another one to the military. And what they did when they flipped out the original governance structure and put in the corporate structure, dropped out that oath. And the oath that he actually takes publicly is in fact the oath to the corporation. I don't even know if he took the military oath in this term. I can't know. I'm pretty sure he did in the first term. I'm not sure that he actually did in the second term. So what's his status with the military if he hasn't taken the oath? Well, he's nothing to them. Okay, which is a very interesting concept if he hasn't taken that oath. Now, how would you get information about that? I doubt whether I want to talk about that. But you can imagine what that information's doing at community level. That the president that they all look to for leading them out of the mess that's currently in is in fact not even an American citizen. And that rule just mysteriously got bent. Well, who's pulling those strings? That must be quite shocking for people. Is that something you've talked about amongst the groups you're dealing with? The fact that Obama himself is probably not an American citizen and shouldn't be president?
I have, and I haven't come across anybody who has grasped it the way that I have, in that there is someone who is not legally or lawfully able to be our president who is running the country into the ground. And I would say if we took a public vote right now, Obama would probably not be in office. But there's a lot of dissatisfaction here with what he's been doing, but a lot of people have felt that they just don't have anything. There's no way that they can do anything. In fact, I felt that way. I hated politics before I started embarking on the People's Trust this year. So now I feel empowered. It's an amazing empowerment thing to walk into a bank and to be able to calmly, without being in fear, talk to people about something like that. And I actually actually did that with my bank, my long-standing bank. Now, in this town that I live in, I have family members that have sat on boards and things like that, and I wanted to be careful with that, so I kind of had to go away and allow them to not have me do that, and it ended up that I had to do it, and it was great. And I've sent a courtesy notice to my one bank that's a mortgage. I haven't heard anything in over a month. Their initial reaction was to email me and say, this won't help you. I've seen this on the internet. And I sent them a invoice for 26,000 ounces of silver. And it's been over a month. That was May 5th. I have heard nothing. Now, in my case, I have to say that there was another person on the loan that they just might have decided to cut me out of the whole thing, and basically she might have paid it. So I have not had verification from that, but I definitely have received zero things from the bank. Not a single letter in my box, nothing.
Interesting. The banks tend to move slowly, but they tend to grind on their machine because they've very much got a foreclosure machine running. That is unlawful for this part. In fact, almost entirely, because it's entirely become an administrative procedure, and the banks don't have to. Many countries don't even have to supply evidence that to the courts to actually ask for a summary judgment, and which is completely unjust. There's no justice in the system. There is no justness in the system. It's just a money generating machine, and that's ultimately one of the key tools for harvesting energy for us is the mortgage system. And harvesting energy through tax, they're harvesting energy through our compliance and everything. It's one of the key things that actually is taking place with the Energy One people. So look, it sounds like that you're a person who would not stop this process having started it.
No, absolutely not. I see it completely gone. I see everybody being able, if everything dropped tomorrow and we all were able to survive without struggling, I see us all helping clean up the earth. If you don't have to go to work, what would you do?
Yeah.
Go clean up the river. Go, and so I understand. I think that these groups will naturally come together, but it would be nice to be in touch with people locally in your community, especially groups that are focused on developing a way to live out, on the fringes or, without using electricity and things like that. That would be, to me, that's a great way to get together with people.
Yeah, look, there has to be moved from the ground up. Lots of speculation about what caused the shift that we're all looking for. And Brad touched on it earlier. What's your favourite theory? Well, there are dozens of them. But the one that resonates most with me is that it has to begin with the people saying no. Reasserting their free will. And that could take many forms. And we're seeing that. There are riots in certain countries. There's all of the interchange in a lot of countries, like Australia. There's a lot of work going on with the courtesy notices, and the police department and the courts and the government. I know they're all quite uneasy about it, not sure what will happen next, and they should be uneasy about it because all of the awakened are really starting to come and stare directly at them and say, "What are you guys actually doing?" And that's the question they can't answer. They never answer that question. We have to really force it out of them. So, Whitney, look, thanks for your time.
Thank you very much, Chris.
This is a really important time we're going through here. Yep, we've spoken before, I think. Have we not?
I think that I called in before. Yeah. So the other thing I would just suggest
look, great to talk to you. I'll pop.
Okay. I just wanted to point out. I'm sorry, Chris. Andrew Bartz's.
Go ahead.
The affirmations that Andrew Bartzis has been putting out, that anybody can log on and find on his Facebook. BARTZIS, are very powerful in releasing the connection to government and connection to things. So that's the only other thing that I would suggest. The more people that energetically...
Yeah, look,
Go ahead.
No, you finish your sentence?
Yes.
Yeah, you started out saying the more people that energetically, but you didn't finish.
Oh, I'm sorry. The more people that include those in their meditations or in their affirmations in a powerful, centered, neutral perspective, that is an energy wave in and of itself.
Yeah, I really resonate with that approach, because if you read through I've read through most of the ones he's done. If you read through them, it's actually a laundry list of what you'd like to change in the world. It covers pretty much everything, and it really is a way of inside yourself very clearly stating to yourself what you don't want. Okay, and by in doing so, create the energy of what you do want. And I think those kind of affirmations certainly have their place, and if they resonate with you, I'd certainly go to Andrew Bartz's. Is it the Facebook page he's publishing these on at this stage?
Yes, I think they've come up all on his Facebook.
Yep. Well, they're certainly a useful tool. It's another tool that we can use, and I'd actually like to explore how you obviously use them on yourself. Okay, because this is again, it's an assertion of free will. If you haven't read them, they actually go through in quite a lot of detail, denying various aspects of the system that exert control of us, but up to this point have done it deceptively. And it's actually bringing to light the deception and saying, I won't participate in this anymore. And it is, as you say, it's a very neutral position to be in. It's just a simple decision, no, not going to be there anymore. And that generates the right kind of energy. So, if it resonates with you, absolutely do it. Now, the work that Heather did sort of brought soul contracts to a close, but in a sense, what Andrew's put out there is actually dealing with the details, the absolute details, so that's very clear to you what it is that we're actually denying. So I'd encourage anyone who's interested in that side of things to have a close look at them and use them as a tool. But thanks very much for pointing that out, Whitney. That was great. So we'll talk again soon.
All right. Thanks, Chris. Thank you, Brad.
Cheers. Bye-bye. Okay, just while we were talking with Whitney there, Julian Wells has popped up. I'll just see if he can actually hear us. Are you there, Julian?
I am here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. You're obviously in the car?
Yeah, that time of day.
Yep. This is the commute home. This is the commute home for you?
Yeah. But I'm okay to speak if you like. If you have any questions or you want to bring anything up.
Yeah, well, I don't know how concentrate. We want you to concentrate on your driving. We don't want you to drive into the back of anybody or off the road or anything like that. But
I do slow lane. I know it might disturb some people, but I almost literally can do it with my eyes closed, sitting on the highway in the slow lane.
Yeah. Yep.
It's not busy traffic either.
Good. Just for the chat room, a couple of people are waving hi to you, and there's a link in there for those soul contract affirmations that if anyone wants to jump in and use that. But yeah, Julian, I was just wondering whether you had a feel for what the energy of the one people, how the energy of the people is presenting itself to you from the Akashic at the moment.
Oh, okay. We're not going to start small.
Sorry.
Let me warm up to this. The definition of the one people is changing. It's kind of like a fetus growing within a womb. It starts to add new appendages and new properties. And it's evolving into a space where those that are following the One People are people who are really new to it at this point and have been referred to by other similar movements. So it's been a while, but I took a reading in terms of how many individuals know about the One People or the OPPT this morning, and I didn't believe my own numbers that were given to me, and it was almost 600 million people are familiar with this. Doesn't mean that they're all involved, but then it's going to sound a little weird if people don't know me already, but I asked why the numbers were so extreme, and I was told that the numbers are actually not as big as they could be because more than 3/4 of those numbers are people not living on the planet. So, in fact, there's more people observing this movement from off-planet than there are actually on the planet. And so I was wondering, well, what's the status quo with regards to how many people are taking an interest in different things? And they said, this is really important. And they're putting their weight behind me in wanting to speak to this. I know some people have, heard about me, starting to gain a better sense of my psychic intuition and whatnot. Well, I dedicated my psychic intuition initially to reading on the Akashic and the energy for the One People, and it skyrocketed. I was literally gifted with tons of information because they really do want to share what they can with me for everyone. So we actually have a lot of off-world and some non-physical personalities that make up the energy. Now, that's the warm-up. Where it actually leads to is what is today's present energetic state in terms of how the One People are going. Well, actually, there's a lot of trepidation over exactly what's going on in Morocco or in Africa, and so there is quite a large percentage of those that are physical on the planet having concerns about what that's going to lead to. So there's sort of like a lack of understanding of what could come of that, or lack of confidence just in those general spaces. But on the good side of things, there is actually how do you describe it? The conversation is being used as a grounding, and the data of the filings is being used as a grounding for introducing people to the fastest way to get informed and gain confidence. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
So it's becoming a more widespread functional tool to give people hope, because there's quite a bit of statistical grounding data that lies within it. However, what that also leads to is a lot of kind of newbies to this subject matter. And I'm almost wondering if we should, start fresh for people who are probably just coming into this type of conversation, or maybe even speak to specific demographics that are finding an interest, such as more seriously the military-industrial complex. I mean, I know you touched on it a little bit earlier in today's show, but certain demographics would like to see how it fits with them. So I'm almost interested in seeing how we can expand in those directions, because there's you know how there's many different individuals that are following, the sort of release that the NSA person brought out, and they want to know more quickly if this is the kind of information they should go down the rabbit hole with. Like, how does it relate directly to them? And so it's sort of like you can take the information and follow it down a couple different tangents. Some of the people who follow are interested in the off-world interests with regards to this. Some are interested in the political side of its implications. Some will be interested in, how to relieve themselves from foreclosure and issues with regards to feeling a great deal of lack in the financial spaces of their life. So although this show does reach out to all of these at the same time, it's almost like it would behoove some shortcuts for those types of people who are out there wanting to research the data without having to go through tons and tons of material and really long transcripts. So the interest is actually expanding at this point, if that's clear enough.
Sure, that's clear, and it's certainly clear that that what the crew in Morocco are doing is of interest to everybody, and everybody's wondering where it will lead to. Well, I'm wondering where it will lead to as well.
Do you want to hear my opinion without spoiling things?
Well, as long as people remember, because Julian is a telepath. He's got psychic abilities. He can read information from the conscious collective. Just for those who haven't run across Julian before, Julian's got a show called The Transitioning, which runs on Saturday nights in US and Sunday morning here in Australia, and he basically explores that side of life. A very, very interesting show. Now, Julian is about to express an opinion, folks. This is not a prediction. This is an opinion based on data in front of him at the moment. So, on that basis, go ahead, Julian. Have a whack.
Okay. You mentioned earlier that they're going through a spiritual experience for the majority. And several of us here have heard them on the show last 2 weeks, and they didn't, the shows didn't sound like the shows that we had before. So we already know that they're transforming internally, those that have gone to visit. There are physical transformations per Bob Wright's experience, and there are remarkable experiences coming from this via what you explained in terms of the financial aid to make it possible, seeming almost spontaneous. Now, imagine those types of experiences reaching those that are listening. They're highly transformative. They're highly effective, not in terms of a tool, but in terms of grounding experiences that people can begin to relate to and understand that there's a lot of energy being devoted to this particular group at this point in time. And so this energy is not just between each other. Now, obviously, we offer our blessings and support to those in Morocco, but when I mentioned earlier that a large number of individuals that are following this are actually not incarnated humans, I do mean they are offering their blessings and love as well. So they are beginning to access this invisible energy, and they're going down a rabbit hole at this moment in time, this is my opinion, where they're discovering just how much energy is actually backing the intent to free the planet. And they should come back with a much greater awareness and empowerment. Some will still be a little gobsmacked, but when energy comes in, it sometimes takes a little bit of deciphering to understand exactly how it's utilized. But you can just call it extreme blessings and grace, so that their every action and deed will be more empowered and more energized, and those that listen will be able to tap into that more easily. I hope that's a sufficient explanation.
That is actually really, really useful, Julian, because it sort of gets in perspective what appears to be simply their absence, but takes it into the reality that they're going through an experience which will actually play out for all of us at some time in the future.
Correct. Now, they're actually facing first-hand opposition, and I'm not going to speak to that, but I can sense the energetics of it. I don't know if that's going to be addressed at some point or if they want to do that, but there are actual energies that are saying we gotta stop this, and that's a sign that the arrowhead that this group in Morocco are acting from are functionally very dangerous and to be taken more seriously. But at this point, those in the contrasting energy are becoming fewer and fewer, and they're just running out of their own sense. So, in fact, they're doing quick, very functional damage to the negative influence.
Good.
So they stick together because they'll need to be a collective unit or / squad, just sort of like helping each other through it. A little bit like how the military sends out squads. Everyone's got a specialization so that they can cover all the needs of a mission.
Yeah, one of the things I've been talking about on the show today is the energetic aspect of this whole situation, and then how we're holding the space, and we have to hold that energy. And although it's not a frame of reference that people use much, but it's really coming into focus because of what's happening in Morocco and because of the information we get from yourself and others about the energetic nature, in fact, of the control system itself. It's an energetic control system.
It all starts there. And in fact, the real root of the controllers is not in physical form. It starts in energy. It starts with non-physical, archonic influence. So, Heather got a great approach. Don't negate any type of opposition because it's at many levels. So, if you leave yourself open to attack from an energetic side, it can be really trippy. So what they do is they pick on the weakest person, of course, at a time, and that's my feeling on Caleb's scenario. Caleb's working and expending the most energy and funneling it was a really, is a keystone to slowing down that group.
Now, Julian, part of my conversation with Caleb, I actually come to the same conclusion. I thought he'd actually been attacked, and I'm going to explore that with him, and we'll bring out a bit more information in the next week or so, about energetic attacks and how they actually take place, because it's happened to me.
Who's an expert on that is Michael and Peter.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. We'll see what they've got to say about energetic attacks and how you actually defend yourself against them.
Yeah.
But he's past that now. But you notice that if that's what took place, how effective it was, because it literally took him offline for 7 days plus, and that's caused consternation.
He was a very important position. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, see, and when you look at the people's expectations were set at things happening, at the very start of June, and of course there's a build-up of energy, and if things don't work out, that energy gets removed. It's actually, it drops the energy level when things don't happen the way they should. So, we've got to be very careful about setting our goals in concrete and our plans in sand, so that we can move with the ebb and flow of this. It's a game of strategy that we're involved in here.
Well, what I'm actually offering is send your blessings to Caleb. Those listening right now have a very strong influence with their love. You can get like 2 or 3 psychic warriors, to give someone a headache that basically stops them from whatever they're doing in that moment. But you get just the people listening to this recording, not even the people live, energy and quantumly, he'll have a lot more support. Does that make sense? So I just wanted to address that as well.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the things that we've learned in the last 6 months, that energy is palpable and it's directable, and we direct our energy and we get results. And the example in all the things we've been discussing.
He's even gotten attacks on so many things that many of us are already aware of. Sure, he's asking for a 1 unit of money, but there's so many people on the outskirts who are not following this movement closely that when you say Project 13 and they look it up and they see this, they automatically come to a conclusion and offer their energy that is really not obviously supporting Caleb in sustaining his physical energetic pattern. So,
well, this is where we, as you said, we've got to stick together on this, because it's when you bring it down to an energetic level, it's literally us versus them. Now we outnumber them hugely.
Oh yes,
we have numbers. And those numbers are the absolute critical thing in the end, the numbers and the intent of all those people. So we have to keep our eyes on the goal. We've really got to focus on that.
We are a team here, and I know there's still some people wanting to sort of, new people that are coming here and listening to this show right now, who are wanting to vet the information and vet the intention. And, they're obviously not as supportive to say support Caleb at this point in time because, they haven't decided if they like Caleb or what he's up to. And so what we can also do is if you want to offer your blessings as well, is to also support those around who have questions. There's lots and lots of discussions going on Facebook and all sorts of blogs, and people having questions. And if you have the sincerest intent to help, then you'll see that you find the words easily to help iron out people's concerns and be in a position to support. There's so many people who are saying, the people from the One People, they're so abrasive and egotistical and all this, and they think that's the only way. We can help those individuals too who are not quite getting the bigger picture that there's no opposition in any place when you speak to the One People. The person you're attacking is the One People too.
Yeah,
so
that's the thing about the whole concept, Julia. You're talking to you're talking to a policeman, you're talking to the One People, you're talking to a judge, you're talking to the One People. It works the same way. This
right.
The most powerful thing about the One People movement is that there's no borders and division in it.
Correct.
Okay, it's just
you'll note
us.
that people are spending and expending energy in trying to understand this new concept, and the closest word that they have per prior experience is cult. Do you understand? And so it's up to us to sort out that energy per taking a moment, and if you feel that you can, try to explain from your personal point of view why it isn't. And if you can't explain that it's not a cult, then perhaps it's time to start taking a closer look at what you understand is going on, and not just follow the crowd that sounds like it's the next best thing without really understanding or feeling it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, that might have been a bit harsh to say it that way. But
No, it's not. No, it's actually a really good point. If you look at the word cult, it's actually a contraction of the word culture. Now, if you examine culture, you'll find that there are many, many, many cultures on this planet, with a couple of them dominating. And just like the way that our history books and our history programs are created by the victors. Okay, our perspective on World War II is that of the Allies. Okay, it's not that of Japan, it's not that of Germany, it's of the Allies, because they actually won it. They got to write the histories for the predominant culture. But if you go back and look in Germany and Japan, you get some quite different stories. Right? Now, does that mean that the Japanese and the Germans are members of a cult? No. It's all to do with which culture is dominant, because they're the ones that get to actually label all the others. Okay. Now, obviously, there are obviously groups of people who are pulled together by usually one or two individuals with malicious intent, and the culture inside that group is very negative, and they call it a cult. It's just a terminology that's grown up. And essentially, what you have to do is look at the group, examine the information in front of you from neutrality. Is the group doing something that's bad for its members and the community around it, or is it doing something that is good for its members? I mean, most cults, per se, go into seclusion for very long periods of time, and bad things happen inside them. That's the opposite of what's going on here. There's nothing about anything that we're doing that is bad for humanity. It's absolutely the reverse. So people can it's very easy to actually drop terms onto a situation that you're ignorant of and label it,
right,
completely inappropriately through lack of information, because people are in the habit of doing that.
Which is all the more reason to be transparent. Don't say that you need to read the facts and you need to regurgitate them for someone. Speak exactly from where you are. Speak to why you came to that place and time, because you're a part of one people. There's no way to say that you can, not represent it truly.
And one of the interesting things you can do is point out to them, well, what's the one people? The one people is defined legally in UC, is defined as every manifestation of the Creator on this planet. Well, let's see, every human manifestation of the Creator on this planet. Okay, so if you're telling me I'm a member of a cult, sorry, you are too. That's a legal definition. You point that and say that's what it actually is. And if they care to think about that carefully, they have to see the fallacy in the argument of actually calling it a cult.
Right. Well, it's also comes into people not being able to pay attention to forms of deception. You can say, I'm a president, and until someone identifies, well, what are you a president of? Then, the title doesn't really mean anything until you actually explain where you're coming from. You say, well, the one people. It's like, well, I think the one people suck. And then you tell them, well, are you saying you suck? Explain to them exactly why you would reference yourself as the one people. Because some people will be like, no, man, I don't want you to be one of the one people. And you understand, it's a new terminology in terms of a grouping that people are going to have a little bit of a trick with, not understanding, especially since there was OPPT, which never fully got resolved in terms of people understanding what is OPPT. Is it people? Is it trustees? Is it an action? Is it something I can look up to try to understand better? It didn't live in the public domain long enough for people to really get an idea of exactly what I should make of this movement. And there are, plenty of those that are saying that we're name changing so that we can avoid, confrontation or something. Let those people know, that there was a name change for a very specific reason.
Exactly.
Don't shy away and say, don't just say, oh, maybe you're right, or I don't even want to talk to you. Set the record straight. You're a part of a collective that's billions large, and if you feel that you have something to offer, well, then offer your explanations if you're in that place and time to do so. I'm not advocating blog arguing, because obviously that's an energy drain in a lot of places. Just know if you feel there's some hope in in your ability to reconcile an energy and help steer it in a clear sense of direction, then yes, go ahead in that space and time.
Yeah, you've got to be confident with what you do, and at the same time, you don't want to shrink from challenge. And the simplest way to approach this is that there was never really a name change, because the OPPT was the name of the trust that did some legal work. Part of the legal work was literally creating, registering, if you like, affirming the existence of an entity called the One People, which very simply was everybody. And it's as simple as that. There isn't anything else going on there. Okay, and because the other work that they did, on paper at least, shifted the whole lawful landscape, that's all that's left. And in the sense that all the fictional structures, became irrelevant at that point. And in fact, however you want to view it, if you want to get back to a society which is one of absolute equity, absolute equality, that's actually what you do, because all of the corporate structures and fictions are actually created to generate inequality, to generate lines of authority and lines of control. If we want to return back to a fair and absolutely separation, everything that we talk about on these shows, that's what the system does. One of the interesting things is to look at, if you imagine that the governance structure suggested by the CVAC is actually, if you like, a series of concentric circles, some concentric, that is inside one another, and others alongside those, linked by lines of agreement. And they're just flat circles sitting on a piece of paper. Now that is absolute. That is equity. That is people just cooperating with one another. That's how the CVAC system is conceptually best thought of. Now, if you can imagine inside one of those sets of circles where you've got circles in circles, these are just councils, by the way. They're just people cooperating with other people to achieve outcomes. If you cut some little slots in the paper, kind of like, just from the edge of the circle to the center of the circle, and tied a piece of string, and you pulled upwards on that string, you'd be pulling up all those bits of paper and creating a cone. Okay? That's hierarchy. That is actually a corruption of the absolute. That is not ever going to give you anything but separation. It's not going to give you anything but a situation where people are voluntarily or forcefully yielding their free will and control over their lives to those that they either set above themselves or set themselves up there for the purposes of controlling the situation. So that's how I conceptually view the difference between hierarchy and hey, Scott, could you mute yourself? Hello, Scott. Sorry about that. I think he's muted himself. Yeah, he was just. We'll pop Scott in a moment. The difference between absolute and hierarchy is just that. It's actually a corruption of the absolute. Now we have a chance. We have a chance to push this concept. No matter what happens legally, no matter what happens to any one individual in this group, if those guys in Morocco got on a spaceship and disappeared forever, would we stop? No. Would I stop? No. Because I can now see, and one of the things I've been looking for a long time is, okay, I'm not happy with the system. What else is there? And the one thing that this whole movement has done for me personally is to educate me as to what there actually is and could be. Okay, and that has provided me with an objective that I think is absolutely where we need to go. Now that's a major shift. It's huge. How we get there, exactly, can't tell you. I actually don't care. It's simply a process that will reveal itself as we move through this process. And the absolute key thing is that we find each other and find this common ground and we set all of our objectives to move to it. That's us exerting our free will. That's us pulling the hierarchy back down to absolute. I'm not getting too esoteric here, but I fully take Julian's point. It's hard for people inside the system to jump onto a concept like that. Actually quite foreign to anything they've seen, because we've been educated on the isms presented by controllers: communism, socialism, capitalism. Okay, and what we're going back, if you like, is absolutism, if you want to put an ism to it. But I'd prefer not to use their terminology at all. I just like to call it absolute, because I think that's our destination, and that's where we find the abundance, because that's where everything works in pure equity, with an equal share of all aspects of this planet. So that's I'll just end my little rant there, because we want to pull in some more calls. Julian, thanks very much for dropping in. Really great to hear your views as always, and we'll obviously be talking to you soon.
Yes. Well, I'm going to head out here. I just arrived home, so.
Okay, you go and take care of the family, and we'll catch you sometime in the next week.
Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, Scott Bartle's dropped in, so I'm going to have a brief word to Scott, and then we'll take some more calls. We'll work our way through these calls fairly quickly. I don't want to leave anyone not spoken to today. Scott, don't forget to unmute. How are you today?
Yeah, good, thanks. Sorry about my noisy arrival.
That's okay. Dreaded mute button. Yeah, look, we just wanted to pull you in to see if you had any update on Uwe's campaign, and anything else that's popped up for you.
Well, first, Uwe's project's still proceeding. I mean, we're basically attempting to get that information across to the banker that they stole the money that they loaned to Uwe. And that's partly why I put out that little 5-minute video called Bankruptcy. So, no, there's growing support with that, and certainly it's a good spot to for people to see the limits or the extent that these banks go to ignore our attempts to get to where the money really came from. And then there's all sorts of other discussions of, like, was there real money and the whole lot. But, yeah, it is an absolute mess where we're at. And if you want an extreme case of how far the banks will go, they're not stopping at receiving information, requests for information, anything like that. So it's a tough one for all of us. As far as other news going on, just really seeing a very encouraging level of people coming out to blow the whistle, if you like, introduce topics that they previously haven't spoken about. It really is quite encouraging seeing people explore these subjects and discuss it, where perhaps 12 months ago they wouldn't have even raised the subject. So I am seeing an encouraging amount of people getting out there and discussing this sort of information. So that's about it from me at the moment.
Yep, well, that's great, Scott. Thanks for popping in. I know you're extremely busy at the moment. It's always good to hear what's actually going on from perspective. The donations for Uwe's court case, how's the progress going on that? Because there were some real legal costs that he's going to incur for this one.
Yep, slow. However, at the moment, they appear to be matching what he's being invoiced, and that's going well. So I think his call for to the universe for the amount that he needs is going well.
Yep.
And as time progresses, there's seemingly more call for that. So
yeah. Now, just in case people haven't caught up with that particular situation, this gentleman is in a fairly unique position to force the banks to do some things in court that they haven't been forced to do before. The barrister he's working with is very encouraged by how we think will go. So we're just putting as much resource as we can, because as Scott's pointed out, the line drawn in the sand by these guys is with the foreclosure system, because that's their flagship, that's their front line tool against us, and they don't want to let anybody get anything significant over the line against them. There was a judge back in the 60s or 70s who actually found against a bank, and gave the victory to the person who actually needed the justice. And the judge actually had a nasty end out fishing a few weeks later, where he was simply assassinated. So, big strong message there, folks. They don't want anyone to win against foreclosure in the court, and it is happening now. There are people who are having victory. A lot of the time, it's been because the bank's procedures are so sloppy, so absolutely sloppy. They've become so careless about the whole thing, it's tripped them up. And hopefully Uwe will really bring something out to the public sphere that we can actually use on a much larger scale. Look, thanks for that, Scott. Is there anything else to speak on?
No, that's pretty much it. So
good stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, well, just pop yourself back on mute for the moment. Don't need to disappear because we've got about 15 minutes to go. We're going to jump back onto some calls here so we can work our way through them. And we'll go to area code 424.
Hello. Hello.
Hello. How are you?
I'm good. Oh, I'm so excited to be speaking to you. This is my first time to talk to Chris. My name is Andrea.
Can you do your name, please?
Andrea, and I live near Los Angeles. And I've been following you guys since last December. And first, I just want to say love you. Thank you for everything you're doing. And yes, I'm sending love to the whole team in Morocco and calling for angels to protect them. And oh goodness, angels for Uwe, angels for Scott. I'm calling angels for everybody.
Yes.
Do you still have Brad on the line?
Yeah. Well, from what Julian has, I still have Brad to ask Brad a question.
Yeah, I have a question for Brad. Well, it's an idea, and I know they're already working.
Hello there.
Crazy.
I'm here.
Hi. I'm doing good. I love the fact that you're making it easy for people to get the word out. The thing that I wish there was some kind of way to show who all's already been notified. I have this vision, and I know you already are like crazy busy just what you're already doing, but I had this crazy idea that it would be beautiful to have a database, like your database that has all these email addresses, that people could actually show, yeah, I sent something to this one, so we could see a count of how many times all these different organizations and people and agencies, alleged governments and former corporations and former banks have been notified. Like some of these people, I actually am going to be sending courtesy notices in the mail, and I'm going to get, the little return receipt requested piece of paper, and I would love to be able to upload that so I could go, okay, look, DMV in this city in California has been notified. DMV over there has been notified. The entire Department of Motor Vehicles in this state, that state, all that effort that we're all doing. We don't have a way where we can see that these people have been notified, and they basically can deny that they ever got any emails. And if we had some way to show, look, we've notified all these courts, we've notified all these government agencies, here's the proof. These people cannot pretend that they did not get the notice.
No, that's a great idea. Yeah. There'll be a few conversations happening in the room right now about
everybody emailing you, okay, here's the scan or a PDF or a screenshot of, my receipt. There's places where you can actually in an email system, it's a certified email. And some of my friends sending courtesy notices to banks in particular are using this certified email system so that they don't have to spend the money at the post office. It's free up to a certain number, and then it's like a certain monthly fee so that you're sending it via email, and instead of having to pay, $2 and $3 and $4 for the return receipt, you're getting an email return receipt. So these are coming in different forms, but the point is if you had everybody on the planet who's actually sending out these courtesy notices and foreclosure flyers, sending you copies of them, I have a feeling you would be deluged.
I have a feeling we would be too.
But it would be lovely to have it, so that other people, when they're questioning what's really going on here, and for the first time they're running across all this stuff. And the other thing, I'll get to this in a minute, but I have a website where I'm also trying to educate people. But so all the people out there who are just discovering this for the first time and wondering, what's going on and trying to, catch up on all the news from the past 6 months, for them to actually be able to see something like that and see how many courts and government agencies and banks have been notified, there it is in black and white, or there is a certified email receipt, would be, a little more convincing to people who are wondering, okay, is this a cult or what?
Yeah, we certainly covered on that before, Andrea. And look, it sounds like what you're really asking about is kind of a scorecard for the use of the website. But beyond that, also...
Well, not just that website, though, but like one massive database that would have like the whole planet. Okay, every government, every former country, that we could say, okay, here it is in one place, who, which government officials have been notified, which judges have been notified, which sheriffs have been notified, which bank executives have been notified, so that they cannot deny it. Here's a return receipt requested with their name on it and somebody signed.
Yeah. Look, I can tell you right now, the team's listening. They're talking about it now. So the message that's just, because it was originally actually on the cards. I'll give you the background because, as we explained on the last show, the database, if it was to use the actual database itself and use its own email generation capacity off its IP address, I'm talking techno babble here for people, but
right.
We could have looked if the website itself was the one that was sending the emails out. So yes, it can be done. It will require user interaction though, so we'll rely on people we'll be doing to be updating that information. Yep, we're looking into it. They're looking into it now. There's the message.
Yeah, it's a great idea.
There you go.
Yeah, we'd all like to know, exactly who we're actually addressing. But there's the other side of the coin where each person does it, and especially because this particular technique that Brad and the crew have adopted is one where people write their own message.
Right.
So there's a unique aspect to each message, and I guess in the end, we don't stop one. We want many, but all the same, I can see absolutely how encouraging that would be. So hopefully the team can come up with something that's a compromise between the realities of how the software works and the desire to actually have these sorts of facilities available.
Yeah, scorecard.
So I don't. It's just a message.
A scorecard, yeah.
A message just in from BZ.
Yep.
We have a public notice board just about to launch on iuv.com where people can submit and upload just what Andrea is talking about and the foreclosure flyers as well as courtesy notices. There you go.
Oh,
there you go.
BZ,
It's already
I said hi. Hi,
Andrea.
BZ.
Yep. See, instant manifestation happening here. It's really good. In fact, she's dropping the same note in my Skype. Yes, she is. Thank you, BZ.
Tell her it's Andrea from Topanga. Oh, she's listening. She's in Skype, right? She knows.
She knows. Yeah, that works well.
So,
look, thanks very much,
here's
Andrea. Appreciate that.
Well, I have one more thing I want to tell you. So I have been listening to, besides the OPPT and the Collective Imagination, I've also gotten off listening to Julian and now Andrew Bartzis. Oh, my goodness, this is a whirlwind education. I have my own website, which I would like to invite you guys to. I've already got links to the 5D Media Network and there's a whole page just for the OPPT. Right now it's only up to about 14 pages. I've only been working on it about a month, but basically it's called integratingdarkandlight.com, and the general idea is it's got introductory information that then leads people down the rabbit hole in all these different categories of cabal control of the finances, cabal control of big agri and big pharma, big oil suppressing free energy. It's got different pages for all this stuff. And now I've gone ahead and added a page for Andrew Barsis, Galactic Historian, and I put that on a separate page because I don't want to scare people away.
Yeah, look, some people are ready for that kind of information, because Andrew's put a huge amount of information. And,
I know, but it's
very,
basically
very, very connected.
Yeah, it's like, so the general idea is it's like a help wake people up kind of website. And, coming from the consciousness of, okay, we've been in duality and we're moving back to oneness. We need to integrate dark and light and, look at the dark and love it all back into oneness.
Pretty much. I mean, the whole idea of this journey is no soul left behind, and that includes them, the people that we call them, who are actually us. There's got to be some resolution to that conflict as part of this process. We can't avoid it. We have to accept that. Much though we'd like to turn up with the pitchforks and the blazing brands.
Yeah.
We really. Once the game is over, once this particular arrangement is concluded, we're all moving on to something else.
I have to just say, as I'm speaking right now, I'm getting a psychic attack. So.
Okay. That's a subject.
I do energy healing for a living, so I'm very sensitive, and I can feel that, putting my voice and my website out into the public, announcing it on this radio program, I just came on the radar, and they're hitting me. So if anyone is inclined to send me, call in angels and send me a little love, I'd appreciate it. I need some shielding. Ow.
Yeah, and all you need to do, folks, is visualize shielding Andrea. And send that out strongly, and it'll make it much difficult for them to get through. It all sounds pretty weird, but that is actually a reality that we're living in. And we it's another part of reality.
Getting better already.
Hidden from us. There you go. Wrap her up in it, and she'll be fine. Because, I've experienced some of that myself, and it's no fun. It's not fun at all.
No.
Feel better?
Yeah, it's lightening up. It's still there a bit, but it's definitely not as sharp as it was a moment ago.
That's good. Okay, what we've just had is a live example
this website
of a psychic attack.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to say something. We've just had a live example of a psychic attack and how they're monitoring us all and using this against us. So if you observe yourself having sudden mood swings or feeling ill or getting headaches all of a sudden, you could well be, if you're speaking publicly or doing something that's actively pushing this energy forward, they will try and chop it down. They don't want us to be having a conversation about energy, folks. They do not want it. Once we get into that game, they know that it's their system is in deep trouble, and Andrea, I do appreciate that coming out publicly is something that you have to be careful of, and I thank you for coming out. Obviously, people, if you've got friends who are looking for a reasonably convenient source of jumping down multiple rabbit holes, it sounds like Andrea's website's a good place to start, because it's so hard to find one place where you can say, okay, look here and just find something that interests you, which is a key thing with people who are about to leap down the rabbit hole. Some of the stuff's really confusing. Some of the stuff they'll resonate with.
Yeah. So it's
Andrea, we'll have to.
One of the pages
to pop you back on
is.
We've got.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll have to pop you back on. Yep. Sorry about that, Andrea. The reason is the lovely lady who does the time on this audio stream has told me there's 60 seconds to go, so we'll have to wind up the live part. We're going to take another 6 questions now after the stream finishes. And look, I'd just like to thank everybody for participating today. I really think we've held the energy of the one people, regardless of anything else that goes on with anything related to this. We just have to stick together with that energy, and we will get there. A quick goodbye from Scott. Too late.
Thanks, guys.
Okay, that's it. Got 10 seconds to go. Brad, you want to say bye-bye to the folks?
Yeah, see you later, everyone. Thanks for listening.
Yep, it's been a very Australian show today. It's kind of sprung on me. I wasn't sure whether everyone would get here, but look, thanks for calling. and to everyone that called in, and we'll continue on the stream. See you all next week. Okay, so I think we're off the stream now. So, guys, what we'll do, if you can hang around for a little while, just whip through the rest of the questions. This will end up on the download, and that way we'll get through a few more.
No problems at all.
Okay, so we'll try area code 336. You're live. Hello. Area code 336. Hello. Who are we speaking to?
This is Randy.
Hello. Hi, Randy.
Can you hear me? Hey, Chris.
Yes.
This is Randy from North Carolina.
How are you doing today?
I'm good. Hope you guys are.
Yes, we are good. Do you have a question for us today, Randy?
Well, I've just been listening to the show a lot lately, and one thing I wanted to bring out is, it seems like things are moving slow, but I think if we realize from the gardener's point of view, which is what Winston Trout refers to a lot, but from the gardener's point of view, weeds grow fast. It's the good plants that grow slow.
Yeah, look, that's a really good point. There's no quick fixes, no quick fixes that are real. Most of band-aid therapy just leads to kind of sloppy results. So you've really got to fertilize. Because I've been into gardening for a couple of years now. Not that good at it, Randy. But the big message the garden sends to me is you've got to get the soil right.
Exactly. And one thing to remember, too, is any time in the scriptures where it refers to a garden, it's talking about the Sacred Heart. So that's a pretty interesting point to remember there. So you guys have a great night. Enjoyed listening to you. Yeah, thanks, Randy, for your comments. Really appreciate where you're coming from there. If we get our hearts right, everything good will follow. That's right. Okay. Thanks for your time. Cheers. Okay, next caller, area code 575.
Hi. I've been listening to David Wilcox, and I'm listening to you now, and I'm not really familiar with everything. I don't want to take too much time, but how do you differ from how he feels? Because I know from what I'm hearing from you, that you're very practical, and your IUVs and courtesy notices and all of that are very practical ways in which we can effect changes. So can you give me just a little bit of differences? I know that the Drake and the Keenan, which I'm not too familiar with, is a source of discordance between you. But can you let me know a little bit more about how you are, and are you going in the same direction? Well, what's your name, by the way? My name is Mano. I've called before. Yeah, I thought you had. How are you today, then? I'm fine, and I'm really interested in the practicality and the spirituality of how you guys are going, because I feel like it's Course in Miracles in just action in a physical way. Miracles do come from action, and they do come from belief. Okay. And also, it's both like those things, everything they say that I didn't believe in a few years ago, I think, it's here. It's here. Yeah. And I see you guys in action. But I'd like to also know how you differ and how you feel, okay? About David Wilcox. And do you have Wilcock do you know about him?
Go ahead.
Do you know about David Wilcock?
Yes, I've been following David Wilcock's work for a long time. When you look around the alternative media at all the people that are commentating, everyone has their information set.
Okay.
They're all viewing things that they personally run across and present what they personally run across, which is absolutely their right. Now, what it does is that when you look at the different commentators, some of the differences will jump at you. Now, one of the things I've really learned is this, that we're actually all on the same page.
Okay.
In the sense that all of the people, like David Wilcock and Drake and Kiernan, actually, we're all on the same team.
Okay.
Sorry about the phone ringing in the background. I'll ignore that in a minute. We're actually on the same team. Disappointingly, despite the fact we're all pulling for the same goal, some of the commentators like to turn around and give us, smacks up the side of the head. This is not useful, right?
Yeah.
And you have to look at what their motivations are. What factors are actually affecting them. Why would they behave this way? Because if you're all pushing in the same direction but don't agree about how, you can also probably agree to simply disagree and keep pushing. Because the objective is to get it over the line.
Okay.
The objective is not to make yourself look like it was all your work, like you're the champion. You did it. Everyone else was useless. It was all because of you. That's just ego.
Yeah.
So a lot of the problems that come up in this area are based on the fact that people are living in ego and not living in service.
Yeah.
Right? Now,
and
David
that
Wilcock
comes up all the time, right?
Oh, all the time. David Wilcock actually lives in service, and he has his perceptions of the world, and he puts them forward. And he's working at a more esoteric level, and that's his perspective. And as I've really taken the position these days, if you view them from neutrality, if you don't get emotionally involved with the way they present their perspective, you can come to a conclusion about whether you really just need to ignore them or communicate with them or even work with them to try and settle your differences. Now, in the case of things in situations like Drake is simply parroting what Neil Keenan's saying. Okay, that's all he's actually doing. Neil Keenan, I don't view as being a person in service. I think he's working for himself and working for others. He has employers, and his objective is to not free the world, but to actually advantage from his situation, and which is why I don't interact with him or pay any energy to what he's saying. Okay, because most of it inaccurate. It's just plain inaccurate. Okay, and he cherry picks lots of facts opportunistically to try and paint as bad a picture as possible, ignoring the fact that the actual trusteeship of the OPPT is in fact shut down. It doesn't exist anymore. We've actually self-rebranded to the One People based on just the sheer delight with which people accept that term. And he's ignoring that because it doesn't suit his purpose. Okay, so
it's like a competition, right?
Well, they're turning it into a competition. They're trying to, and what I'm saying is there's no competition here, folks. There's either us freeing ourselves or there's some little game that you guys are playing that is just not helping. Right, but rather than trying to jump into their pool of negative energy and just lose momentum, we choose to simply let them have the views they're entitled to.
Okay, well, I appreciate your getting into it because I didn't really know, and I'm just listening to, and I'm not really. I'm kind of ignorant. I don't know about all the politics behind it. But I just heard you, and I heard David Wilcock, and I find him credible. But I find you guys really factual and in the moment and practical. And thank you.
And thank you for your call. We appreciate We appreciate your observations. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much.
I'll pop you back. You're welcome.
Okay.
I'll pop you back on hold.
Okay.
Talk to you again.
Yeah.
Guys, Brad and Scott, did you have anything to add to that particular conversation?
Chris, I think you summed that one up very well, and that was a very complimentary call. So, no, good work.
Certainly was.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Yeah, I don't really like wasting time on some of the commentaries that are coming from the sidelines. It's just not useful. It's actually a good opportunity to point that out there because I haven't really spoken on it in any detail before. But interestingly enough, David Wilcock is one of his latest article is actually pointing to the really intense period of change starting very soon, which agrees with the kind of feelings that we get, when we look around the collective and take the temperature. So, let's hope we're all right. We're all correct in this one, that things are actually starting to finally move. Okay, we'll take another call. This is area code 561. Hi there. How are you today?
Oh, hi there. I'm great, thanks. This is Jerry calling in.
Hi, Jerry. How are you?
I'm great, thanks. By popular demand on the chat, I've been asked to call in to read out one of my poems again. They all kind of just waited.
Absolutely, Jerry. Look, there's, if...
Yeah.
Okay, repeat that, Jerry. You back up a touch.
I was just going to say, I think the best one for me to do is the Declaration of Absolute Freedom, because I've pretty well got it learned now, and it just feels so good. So I think that's what we need right now is that everybody in the chat. There's been a few. There's a troll came by, and we need to just keep our spirits up here, and to affirm that we're free.
Yes, please.
Yeah, so here it goes, the Declaration of Absolute Freedom. I am free. This is my declaration. Now is the time for humanity's liberation. All people of Earth are one and are free to do what we do and to be what we be. We are the one people, co-custodians of Earth. Each one of us has been this since the day of our birth. We are eternal essence, embodied absent limits. Planet Earth is our home. We need not license or permits. The Creator is all that is, eternal essence absolute. It is impossible for this to refute. Together we establish, serve and protect peace and unity and the right of free will choice. We live in love and harmony. We are absolutely free and live in abundance. We own our own bodies, and each day we enhance our personal value by nurturing our home, our beloved Gaia, where we freely roam. I am what I am, and you be what you be. You are simply you, and I am simply me. We are all free for ourselves to speak, and although we're connected, we are each unique. I serve the one people each moment of now. Being part of humanity, this is my free will vow. We manifest all sorts of perfection, and it's understood that this is for the one people's greatest good.
Thank you, Jerry.
That's for everybody.
That's great.
Good.
Look, it gets better every time.
I love that.
Yeah, it's brilliant. Yeah, it's great. Jerry, look, don't hesitate to read any news you've got or other stuff that you've got that's built around the one people. It's great to hear it in prose. Really great. Just for those who haven't heard Jerry before, Jerry's poems go under the name of Poems from Jones.
Poems by Jones.
Poems by Jones. Sorry about that. Do you actually have a Do you have a website, Jerry?
Yes. Poemsbyjones.com.
Easy. You might want to spell that for people because just to make it clear.
Yeah, it's POMESBYJONES. Poems by Jones. It rhymes better, and it's all about rhyming.
It is all about rhyming. Look, pleasure to have you on, Jerry.
for listening again. And I've always got plenty to share. So I've got a whole book. So if anybody wants to buy it, it's on poemsbyjones.com.
There you go. Terrific. And as I say, if you've got any other new stuff, absolutely pop on and let us sample your wares.
Yeah, well, I'll come on anytime. I've got, like I say, I've got a whole book full of them. Here's one I've just opened up called Mother Earth. I was writing all of this while all of this was going on, and I seem to have written something that completely connects with the complete message of the One People, all about, us being connected to our Earth and loving each other and helping each other. And that's what it's all about. That's all my poems are all about. The whole book is
excellent.
complete
Well,
connection.
That's it. We'll make it a regular spot then, and we'll have the next poem next week.
Yeah, that'll be lovely. Okay, give me a shout.
Okay. Will do, Jerry.
Thanks a lot. Thanks, Bruce.
Either.
You do a great job.
Bye-bye.
Thanks so much.
Thanks.
Okay, bye.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Okay, that was Jerry. Poems from Jones. Okay, we'll move on to area code 808. Hello. How are you today?
Hello.
Hello. Could we have your name?
Hello. Yeah, I'm Doug.
Hi, Doug.
In Hawaii.
How's the weather?
It's wonderful.
Yeah.
82 degrees, sunshine. So I'm much like Randall. 15 years ago, I did the redemption process for the UCC. I'm a straw man name, and I had a copy of the UCC and read parts of it. So, and I was sorry to not get the information about the One People until March. And so I've been putting in courtesy notices with the mooring on my boat and chief of police and things like that. So, and the first time I saw the information that was sent to me by a friend, I went, whoa, this is a real thing. These people have really done it, knowing what I knew from my studies before. And being in Hawaii is kind of a different perspective as well, because it's not really part of the United States. And legally, it's part of the fraud. So I also wanted to mention there's a book called The Finite and Infinite Game. It's by James P. Cart. And what the One People is an infinite game. An infinite game, change the rules so everybody wins and the game lasts forever.
Everybody wins and the game lasts forever.
You change the rules in order to make that happen.
Well, that's actually what we're doing. That's absolutely what we're doing. And if you look at this from a purely spiritual point of view, we're all souls on an infinite journey, and this is just a temporary stopover. The skin suits are just a temporary mantle we've assumed to play this part of a game that lasts forever.
Right. The other thing I wanted to is relating to infinite games is, if you think for a minute how complex our world really is, and all the things that have to happen. Just take, for example, everybody driving on the proper side of the road. There's a huge amount of experience and learning and everything that has to happen in order for us to live the lives that we're accustomed to. And I think there should be more emphasis on looking at that and saying, okay, so when things change, how do we really make everything work? And
now, Doug, you've touched on a really important point there. Doug was just saying that when it's such a, I don't know, it's your voice is a little muffled, so I'll get you to speak up a touch. But what Doug was commenting on was the fact we live in a really complex world, and what we're talking about here is instituting major change, and I know what he's heading directly to, because Scott and I have this conversation all the time. How do we actually do that down at the detail level? Okay, so what I'll do, Doug, I'll get Scott to, because there's one particular thing I know he'll speak to, which will give you a bit of handle on how to actually view the changes we need to make at ground level. Now, Scott, you know where I'm going. It's the paring back concept that you've got.
Sorry, just refresh me on that one.
Paring back things we need out of the current structures.
Yeah, so I call it removing the roadblocks. Basically, you've got a lot of things out there that are essential services like firefighters and nurses and the like, and yet they're wrapped up in bureaucracy and need tos and rules and all the rest of it that serve the system. And if you can pull away the roadblocks, and there's essentially a litmus test to apply to many of these supposed government services of do they actually benefit exclusively the people. If not, then you can remove them or reshape them to the point where they do. And that change, I suppose, would be the easiest transition to go from what we've got to where we are in a situation where things are beneficial for us.
Yeah, and if you start to apply that to, say, a government, Doug, one of the first things to go would be the tax department, followed closely by politicians.
Well, I'm talking more about like the bus drivers and the farmers, and we've all got to learn how to pull together, and that's why I mentioned this in conjunction with financing infinite gains.
Look, the
systems we have, and we need systems experts in that. What does it really take to make all this happen? Everybody has to keep doing what they're doing and exercise their expertise in their particular area for the benefit of all of us without harvesting. So how do we do that?
Exactly. How do that? Look, I'll just repeat what Doug said. Everyone has to continue acting in their areas of expertise for the benefit of all of us without the harvest system. And what he just said is absolutely pivotal, because we're going to go through a major shift, but we want to go through a major shift without chaos. Okay, and again, it depends. It's very circumstantial as to exactly what happens, in what order, when, and there are other X factors that are going to kick in, which, like new technology, possible extra help from folks outside to move through. But essentially, when the shift starts to happen, one of the things that has to be our principle is that it needs to be done with a minimum fear. Okay, if you remove the fear, then people are far more likely to simply keep contributing to society in the way that they do from day to day. It's that which will keep things stable and calm. So if everybody actually, does go to work, does contribute, so the garbage is collected, the sewage system keeps running, the electricity keeps running, all of these things have to keep running. And I have to state my opinion now that if they stop running, it won't be because of the people not acting in their role. It'll be probably because they're being interfered with to try and generate fear. So we have to be very diligent. We kick into that mode, which at some point we will, make sure people understand that the day-to-day stuff has to keep going. It's the stuff that Scott was referring to, which you rightfully identify as harvesting. Stuff that harvests has to go. And I'm not suggesting that this happens in a day or a week, probably months rolling into years to really get a real reformation through to a fairly complete stage. But I've been saying for a while we have to start talking about the CVAX. And the critical thing to start talking about is brought up. How do we get from here to there? I mean, really, at baseline, how does it take place? And when Scott and I and the others are chatting about this, we know that we won't know the exact sequence of events, but there's some principles to establish that Scott just spoke of. We simply remove the things we don't need, the things that harvest, the tax system, all the fees, a lot of government structures. And here's an example: you can take away the government registration fees, right? But that doesn't mean we ignore for instance, the health regulations. Health regulations are in position to keep everybody healthy. So, for instance, food outlets would still be required to present their food to the public hygienically. There's no reason to be changing any of that aspect of it. They'll have to do it under full responsibility and liability at a personal level rather than paying registration fees to the government being inspected. Okay, so that's the shift, in remove the harvesting tools, but also taking up the responsibility for making sure everything works, because that's our responsibility. And I do thank you, Doug, for bringing that up. It's really something that we've got to start getting. It has to be our minds as we move into this period where the shift is actually starting.
Right. I'd like to bring up one more thing
still
too. And, I'd like to bring up one more thing too, and that's the
sure
the wobble that's in the current financial system.
Yep. Do you have a question about it, or?
Yeah, the wobble in the current financial system that's getting worse and worse. A good place to follow what's going on financially is zerohedge.com. They had an article today about how the Federal Reserve is starting to buy stocks just to prop up the S&P 500, and that's like the end game. When they have to do that.
Yeah, that's a really bad. It's a really bad sign when that happens. Now, what Heather pointed out earlier in the year was that the whole system's running on the smell of an oily rag at the moment because the lifeblood's been cut off from them for some time now.
Right.
Really, it has to happen. There's going to be wobbles, and it's going to look pretty frightening to some people. And it's a matter of in the people directly around us during that period, assuring them that it's just the end of something and the start of something else that's actually going on here. As you say, that's not a good sign. It is an end game sign.
Right, and it's just a call for us all to pull together instead of in separate directions.
Yeah. Absolutely. Our strength, yeah, absolutely right. Our strength is when we pull together.
Right. And that's, I mean, as I said before, think of how much value there's created by everybody staying on the proper side of the road just when you're driving. Just something as simple as that, how much value that makes our whole civilization work. When you come right down to it, I mean, that's just one thing.
No, it's not just one thing. It's all the things we do, and if we're all pulling in the same direction, it works.
Right.
Now, as we go through the shift, the people whose system we're shifting out of will try to disrupt us from pulling all together, divide us. We need to be mindful of and keep the goal in mind.
Okay, well, I surely appreciate all your work,
We've got
you. Thank you very much.
Yep. Thank you, Doug. Yep. Thank you very
And
much.
all of
The
us.
time delay in our conversation is just a. Yeah. Thanks, Doug. Thank you very much. I'll pop you back on hold for your call.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Okay. Yeah, look, time delay makes it very difficult. With those kinds of time delays, it's very hard to have a conversation, but, do what we've got to do. Okay. Right, now on to area code 732. Slowly coming on to live.
Hello.
Okay, area code 732. Hello, how are you?
Hello, this is Mark from New Jersey.
How are you, Mark?
I'm doing well. I called last week, and I'm back again this week. And I had two things.
Nice to hear from you again.
Nice to hear from you guys. I hope everything is well with you all. There were two...
Go ahead, Mark. There's quite a big delay. Sorry, Mark, I'll just say there's quite a delay in our signals, which makes it hard to have a real conversation, so I'll just let talk.
Okay, I'll be brief. I just have two things that I want to express here, or bring out, I should say. The first one is from our conversation last week with the issue that I was speaking about. I had a thought, and the thought came from a gentleman whose call that I was listening to. You may have heard of him, you may have not, but his name is Rod Class. And he was explaining some of his experiences with the local constabulary in Washington, D.C., and he was explaining the financial system to a degree where it resonated and it clicked with me. And I just wanted to say that when people are sending out courtesy notices and foreclosure flyers, the one thing maybe to really, really anchor into our minds is that, number one, all corporations have been foreclosed on, meaning governments, banks, collection agencies, any other corporate construct that you can think of has been foreclosed on. But do not forget that our corporate entity has also been foreclosed on, and that would be the entity that was created through the fiat currency system, and the paper being such as the birth certificate name, the Social Security name, the all caps name that they tried to get us to recognize as being us so that they could interact with us. Well, if everything has been foreclosed on, then even that entity, the one that they were using to interact with us, has been foreclosed as well, because it all propagated and was born from their system, their currency system, their fiat system, which was nothing but a debt system based on promises to give something that had never been given in the first place, which resonated with me and made me think, well, if that is the case, then you cannot loan me a promise and then charge me interest on a promise, because nothing has ever been given to substantiate or fulfill the promise that was made in the first place. So it's really all a sick, twisted game of fiat currency that really never had any tangible value such as precious metal or precious minerals to back it up. So I believe that if we can anchor that into our thoughts and convey that to others as well in a way that they can accept it, I believe that our fears, so to speak, or our hesitations would slowly diminish, knowing that that is what we are truly dealing with at this point. And now we are dealing one-to-one as man-to-man. There is no more veil to cover up anything. It's all been torn to shreds. The wizard behind the curtain has been exposed. There was no great and powerful Oz. It's just a man pulling levers, and there he is. And we're dealing with him, and now he has to deal with us.
That's a very good summary, actually, I must say. It's and you know, thank you. The callers are really bringing out some really good points today. You're absolutely correct in that the straw man stuff disappears along with the rest of the fiction, and it's just us and them. It's just one person talking to another person, one of the one people talking to another, another part of the one people, and that's the great equalizer. The thing that's holding us back is simply knowledge, information, and acceptance of that information by the people who are receiving it, accepting it as being the true reality, as opposed to as what you pointed out is the sick, twisted game that's been played on us so long. And that game, in the filings, it's really summarized very simply in the filings as being deceptive acts and practices, as you alluded to. We never agreed to any of this stuff overtly. It was all covertly just created and used against us. And it's pretty sick and twisted. But if we take the mindset that now all that interference is gone and we're only dealing on to one, we get back to a very positive way of viewing what is a difficult process. I mean, none of this stuff is easy. This is all hard to do. But if we view it in that very human way, that very personal way, that makes it much easier to adopt an attitude that's going to get a positive result. Because if you go in there all guns blazing, people just shoot back at you. It's a natural reaction. But if you go in there just understanding the situation and that you're dealing with people who are just like you, completely changes the energy into one that we can really do something with.
And one other thing that I wanted to just touch on here very briefly once again, because I know that there are other people in queue that want to get their calls in, so I'm going to be brief with this. Now, I know that a lot of people, including myself, have been anticipating the Project 13 launch. We've really been anticipating. We've been pushing for it. We've been giving our positive energy to it. And there have been some concerns. I must be frank and honest. There have been some concerns, but as I listened to the program from start to finish tonight, the main concern that I saw with a lot of people wasn't a negative type of thing. It was more of okay, we're on the cusp of something, but there was a feeling of being in limbo where, okay, we're looking, we're anticipating, but we don't see the manifestation of what we are all pulling for. And it became more of a concern with people, not so much a negative bashing, but more of okay, what's going on? What's the hiccup? More of what is there anything that we can do to help if there's a problem? Can we know about it so that if we can do something to help facilitate this, to push through that, we can jump right on board and we can let Caleb know that, hey, we got your back, but we just need to hear something so that we know, okay, this is the situation, or like was said earlier, we're having a little difficulty with some bureaucracy or some red tape, or we're being blocked, or something is, standing in our way. And we could use some support. We could use some positive messages. We could use some positive thoughts, some positive energy, something that maybe someone like me over here in the States, I may not be able to physically be with them. But if I know that there's some type of way that I could help or I could be involved to facilitate, it would go over much better rather than everybody wondering, okay, what happened? We're kind of like stuck in a black hole here where we're not really being pulled through, but we're not really going out the other side that we came in either. And I think that was the thing that a lot of people that I saw were concerned with, is that we don't hear anything. And it's kind of like, your little brother who goes to school and there's a bully that picks on him, takes his milk money, and your little brother comes home and he's all scuffed up and everything, and you say, well, hey, what happened? And he's very tight-lipped, or you just don't get any information. So therefore, you never know that at lunchtime this bully's been picking on your little brother for weeks, until one day somebody says, hey, isn't that your little brother over there getting roughed up by that big bully? Then all of a sudden you know what the situation is, but it's weeks and weeks later. So I just wanted to bring that up and say that, to me, it just seemed like we needed information. We wanted to know because we were concerned. We weren't dropping off and saying, well, hey, this isn't going to happen, but we just wanted to know. And now that we do know, I would just request, or maybe even just make a plea that, if there's anything we can do, get a message to us, because we're all in this together. And we want everybody to know that, hey, you're working for the greater good of everybody. We're with you 100%, but let us know what we can do. And that's it. Hello? Hello? Hello?
What? Hello?
Chris there.
Is Chris there? What's happened? He's dropped off the call.
Oh, no. Sorry, I had myself muted. Sorry, Mark.
Ah.
Sorry, Mark. I was specifically trying to keep it nice and quiet, and I muted myself. Look, I really appreciate your sentiments, and I know Caleb would too. Essentially, the software development that's going on at the moment is being done under, limited resources by a small group of people, and essentially, to be honest, Caleb got attacked. Like that lady was attacked right in front of our eyes before. That caller was psychically attacked because she is in herself telepathic. Okay, I've got to explore this a bit more with Caleb, but from my conversation today, I'm pretty sure he was taken down so that he would interfere with this process. So the best thing we can do is do what we did for that psychic and actually send our intention for Caleb's health to be good and for everything around him to proceed, and that is something we can do. And we can do that just with our thoughts. And that's the most incredible thing about this whole process, is to understand the power of large groups of people wanting and thinking about the same thing. That's number one. Secondly, the thing that we can do is when the software comes out, actually subscribe, because as soon as a bit of resources become available, the whole thing starts to accelerate. That's the other thing that we can do. As far as assisting Caleb right now on the ground, that's a tough one because it's a very, very specific bit of development he's doing. And if there happen to be any programmers out there who work in, you'll have to pull the name out of my head here. There's a framework called Silverlight, which he's working in, and a framework he's using, the name of which escapes him. It's a Microsoft information/database platform. If there are any developers out there who want to actually throw in their skills with Caleb to assist in the future development, I'm sure he'd be very happy to talk to you. But the other thing we can do is send some messages to Caleb. His email address is actually, I can't remember his email address, but I'm sure we can pop it up on the website there somewhere, just to send him some messages of support, just direct messages of support. That always helps. I get pretty regular messages of support, and I really appreciate them. So do keep those coming in. But look, it's frustrating for all of us, and it's just the way it's worked for the last week or two. And it's why we're focusing on holding the space today, Mark. And, we got as much information as we could, and we do appreciate your understanding and your patience.
Okay. Well, I appreciate everybody. I know we'll all get through this. Let's just keep the lines of communication open so that if there's anything needed, we can know that we can be involved somehow and facilitate this thing moving forward.
Yep, we're in total agreement with you there. We just keep pulling together. We know why we're here. Mark, thanks for calling in again. It's great to hear from you.
Okay, you all have a great day, afternoon, evening, wherever you are, and I will speak to you again. Have a great one.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay. One thing I might ask anyone who's currently on hold, if we've spoken to you, if you could hit 1 again on the dial just to take your hand down, that would be great. So I think we're actually all through the calls. 732. You just hit 1 to take your hand down. Might have a second. 347 808. And then we've spoken to area code 808. Okay, I'll try the last caller again. The last person who's got their hand up. Hello, area code 347. Okay, I think 347 is just listening. Well, Scott, I think that's it. You'll have to unmute, Scott.
Yeah. But when you go, Scott.
Yeah, reaching for the thing. Yes. Yeah, look, we'll wind it up for today. I think we've gotten through all the calls. Interesting show. Lots of really good feedback, and a direction that I personally am really in favour of, which is focusing on the fact that in and of itself, the one people stands alongside, but apart from the original work, that if all of the major players disappeared, if you and I just disappeared, Scott, that the one people would just keep going under its own steam. I think that's a really important concept to get across.
Well, yeah, I agree, and you see that more and more going on around the world, and that's, I suppose, the barometer I'm seeing. My inbox is absolutely chockers with people sending information of this is happening here, this is happening there. It is fascinating, and I was blown away by that aspect of that psychic attack.
Yeah, that was pretty incredible, actually, and I'm going to... I want to put out something on psychic attacks. I've got to find the right person to talk to about it. But this is one of the weapons they're using against us, and we really need to highlight the fact that that game's in play and find out what sort of defences we can have against us. And the remarkable thing was how quickly the psychic attack was subsided. As soon as we knew about it and put our thoughts in that direction, bang, it stopped.
Yeah.
It was quite extraordinary and a great lesson to all of us as to how we can support one another. We just need to know. See, Caleb, we could protect Caleb in this fashion. You know, we wind our thought around Caleb, and they won't be able to touch him psychically.
Yep.
That's how powerful this energy is, and I'll bring this up again on the show because this will be in the download, but it obviously didn't go out during the show itself. So I'll bring it up again next week, and
well, that's one particular area I'm researching into more myself personally, and it's fascinating, and to know that we can actually change it is brilliant.
Yeah, and there's some very, very powerful light workers out there, and see they're actually attacking us, and whilst I don't propose that we go back and attack them because we're just promulgating a form of violence. We have a right to bend our energy towards simply negating it and saying, which is another way of saying, don't do that. It's not the right thing.
You're basically saying no.
Yeah, exactly. We're not having that. And human thought is an actual palpable thing. It has an absolute energy to it, and energy responds to consciousness. And I'm sure your researchers are revealing all sorts of interesting aspects of that.
Yeah, particularly the amplification button from not just your thoughts from your head, but also from your heart.
Well, the heart's the source of infinite energy in a very, very real way, which is another fact that's been hidden from us. The technology in the skin suit is something that we can actually talk about tomorrow on the Collective Imagination show, because tomorrow we have Bashar on.
Awesome.
Well, we've got to be precise, we've got Daryl Anchor on, who's the channeler. He doesn't usually channel Bashar on shows, but maybe we can draw him out. That would be terrific. And
well, let's see what happens. That sounds exciting.
Let's see what happens. But look, thanks for your help today, Scott. And Brad's had to shoot off, so I appreciate Brad being wingman for today. It was good to have him there as a bit of a counter. He's keeping a close eye on things and doing a lot of great work on the Absolute Data Exchange. And that will continue to grow as we get to use that new tool. And there are more tools coming online. So what we'll do, Scott, is wind it up for this week. Thanks to all the listeners. There's some still online listening. Thank you all for your time. Really appreciate it. We can make this thing work.
Awesome. Thanks, Chris.
Okay. Goodbye, Bud. Goodbye, everybody.
Cheers, guys.